Hello, my name's Ian Seeger from Pilot Career News. On the 6th and 7th of November, we held our very first virtual edition of Pilot Careers Live. We streamed over 30 different seminars with 60 speakers. There were 2 days packed full of great information. Of course, we recorded everything, and you're about to watch one of the videos from the event. Before you do, I just want to thank our sponsors, Bose, Alsim, Entro, and of course Pulis. Without them and without the exhibitors, it wouldn't be possible. The exhibitor pages are still live, so feel free to head on over there, go to www.pilotcareerslive.com and click through to the exhibitors. There's loads of information, loads of downloads, all sorts of great stuff there for you. Anyway, enjoy the video, and if you find it useful, really appreciate it if you click subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye. Been enjoying this, everybody, and we now have one of our question and answer sessions where the panelists who've been involved in the morning discussions have come back, or at least some of them come back, and ready to answer your questions. Looking at the moment, I see we've got Andy from Leading Edge Aviation Limited and Eugene Moriarty from L3 Harris, and I believe there are some others due to join shortly. So let me just ask one of the questions that's come up, and this would really be a question for Glenn from the CAA when he comes back. But in the meantime, how are both of you seeing requests coming through? Are people asking to train for EASA licenses post this year or for UK licenses? I'm sorry, I forgot we're with Alex in the studio as well. Apologies, Alex.
Shall I start? We're seeing a mix. We're seeing a mix, and so predominantly UK licenses is what we tend to see, but there is a mix there. I think there's a caution around the transition period and the uncertainty that Glenn just spoke about on his piece there is still in some people's minds, I think. But, yeah, we're seeing a mix of both. And
there are UK licenses they're looking at, but there are some that are considering, depending on obviously where they're going to train. And the thing that's not been answered yet is, would any UK citizen have the right to live and work in the rest of Europe? It seems to be a common question, which we can't answer. So the angle at the moment is predominantly UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, is that something that comes across in the ground school thing? Or?
Well, we get involved in it mostly because people come to us with licensing questions in the early stages and say, how should I do this, where should I go? And so it doesn't directly affect ground school, because ground school is substantially the same, but it very much affects the decisions that the people make. And we actually see the reverse of that. The reality is that if you get an EASA license, then the CAA have said that they will either validate or convert. They haven't been clear about which one, but they'll basically issue a UK license on the basis of an EASA license for what they call recent UK issued Part FCL holders, which we're interpreting as somebody who had a UK issued PPL, went and got themselves an EASA ATPL, come back to the UK after transition period has ended, and the UK will give them a UK license. And that means that they have both licenses, whereas if they take the UK path, they will end up with a UK only license, and there is no easy conversion from a UK only license to EASA. So the reverse of what the other panelists say. Most of our candidates, most of the people we talk to that go to other modular schools are planning for an EASA license, and the UK candidates are expecting to be able to convert to a UK to hold both licenses in parallel.
Thank you. So, question from Sam here, which is, can you hold a UK PPL and then do training with an EASA state to enable you to hold an EASA ATPL, but maintain your UK PPL? I think pretty sure the answer to that is yes, because the UK PPL is ICAO PPL, and that's what you need to start the ground school training.
Yeah, that's exactly the answer, because we're talking about after the transition period here. The criteria to start the ATPL theory is to hold an ICAO standard PPL, of which the UK PPL is. I think I'm right in saying that the NPPL isn't, though. Is that right?
I think that NPPL is sub-ICAO.
Yeah, so you'd have to use a full UK PPL, and yes, then you can go to an EASA state, or indeed an EASA-approved ATO within the UK, and there'll be quite a large number of those, and start trading for an EASA license.
So you've been joined by Glenn. Hello, Glenn. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining. Unfortunately, I was in here and I missed your presentation, so some of these questions you may well have answered already. So Stuart Stevenson, how will someone living in Northern Ireland be affected by Brexit? we better with the UK license or an EASA? Well, I'm not sure anyone. That's kind of, you need to figure that one out. Northern Ireland is caught in the middle. Any comments on that, Glenn?
Well, Northern Ireland is part of the UK, so it fits with that. So if you were flying, I mean, it depends who you're flying for and what you're doing. So I think where you live is probably kind of slightly irrelevant. So I mean, theoretically, being in Northern Ireland is the same as living in England as far as working license and flying is concerned. So it's very much about where you want to be working.
Yeah,
that kind of makes sense. So it's a bit vague, but
and where you can work, which I guess is a question none of us can answer.
Exactly. I mean, if you're living in Northern Ireland and want to go and work for Cathay Pacific, then you're going to have a Hong Kong license. So yeah. I'm not being facetious, but I mean, if you're working for a European operation, you've got the right to live and work in Europe or whatever. Then that's it's that kind of drives it rather than where you live.
Okay, thank you. I have a question from Shalem Bamra, which is really addressed at the ATOs, I should say. I have another question to ask. On average, if you choose to do modular pilot training, how long will it take you roughly to get your frozen ATPL? I'm going to take a stab at between 2.5 and 5 years. Andy, what would you say?
Well, the biggest thing is how long are the gaps you do between each session? If you actually went straight the way through like an integrated in modular route, you can do it in 18 months. But how quickly can you do hours builds? How long did it take to get your PPL? As you say, it's how long is a piece of string? Yeah, 2 and a bit years to 5 years is an average sort of line on it.
Eugene, anything to add to that?
Yeah, same as Andy. It's what you choose. I mean, that's the benefit of modular. You can choose the pace at which you complete it. So if you want to spread it out over a longer period, you can. But as Andy said, if you packed it all together, then it would be a similar timeline to an integrated course.
Thank you, Glenn. I have a question here for you. You could settle an argument as well. There's somebody here asking. Scrolled off my screen, unfortunately, but basically said if I hold an EASA license, let's say for the argument sake that we're talking about an EASA professional license, can I fly a G-Reg aircraft professionally? So
yes.
French ATPL, can I fly a G-Reg BA airplane?
From the 1st of January until the 1st of January 2021 until the 31st of December 2022, yes, you can, because on the 1st of January we'll issue a blanket validation that validates all EASA licenses for use on G-Reg aircraft, and that validation period is designed as a period of time for you to get a UK national license issued by the end of that period. So yes, you can for 2 years, and you can continue to do so if you get a UK national license issued in that period as well.
Thank you very much. Petter, did you have which route did you follow? Were you a modular or an integrated?
I went through an integrated route, which was government sponsored, fortunately, back in Sweden. So it was a slightly different from what you can find right now, where I did the integrated CPL IR, first of all, and then I did my military service for a year, and then I did my multi-engine and my MCC training following that. But it was an integrated training.
Thank you. There's been a couple of questions about BALPA's statement, which was issued yesterday. I need to, we'll address that in a future Q&A because I want to go and read the statement for these. So we'll come back to that later. Did you have something to add, Alex?
Yeah, I would like to ask Glenn a question, if I may. Glenn, hi. I really welcome that announcement you've just made that you're going to issue a blanket exemption for all EASA licenses to operate G-Reg aircraft. This is breaking news, really, because what you've said on your website so far is that you would allow conversion of EASA licenses to UK licenses, but only for those that are described as recent UK-issued Part FCL holders, which implies to me that you're only talking about UK PPLs or people who had held a UK PPL who then go and get an EASA license, which a lot of people are doing, and up till about 10 minutes ago, I understood that it was only them that were going to be allowed to convert to UK licenses. But did I misunderstand you?
Okay, so just to unpick that slightly. So the legislation, the statutory instrument states any certificates, license or approvals that are issued before the 1st of January 2021 will be accepted for that 2-year validation period, or up to 2 years. So for a license, it's non-expiring, so it will be accepted for 2 years. So if you have an EASA ATPL issued before the end of the year, it will be validated by the UK to be able to, for use on GeoEdge aircraft for up to 2 years.
That's anybody.
Yeah.
So what about people who get an EASA issued license after the end of the transition period, and then want to convert their UK licenses, their EASA licenses to UK?
Right. There'll be a process for doing that as well. I'm not sure the exact details of what would be required to do that, and I wouldn't like to make it up and get it wrong. But there is a process for doing that.
Claire, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So a common question that we've had from a few people, and I guess it's going to be a challenging one for the ATOs involved and for Alex. Does anyone know of any loan companies or funding schemes that are currently available to people within Europe or the UK, which is sort of Europe? Andy?
No, there's nothing out there at the moment that we know of like BBVA used to be, but there are still a number of banks that will make loans for pilot training, but not the sort of scheme that was out there a few years ago, unfortunately.
Eugene, aware of anything?
I'm not.
No, I'm going to guess that Alex is not either. So I have to say, if you three are not aware of anything, it's a pretty dead cert that there's nothing currently available, I would say.
Apologies, I'm going to have to drop off now. Because it's running late. I've got a clash of meetings, so I do apologise for this. But thank you very much for having me.
Sorry, Glenn. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Question, Petter, for you here from Stephen Adams. How old is too old to consider start a flying career, especially for individuals who intend to follow their dreams?
Yeah. So this is a question I get very often, and the answer to that is that there is really no upper limit unless you are looking for a specific airline that has put an upper limit to it. You can start training pretty much whenever you want. Obviously, your mandatory retirement age is 65, and it's probably not a great idea to start training when you're 60, to be finished when you're 62, and then have a very short period of flying. But if you have the money to do that, you could potentially do that. Now, what I tend to say is that it has less to do with your age and more to do with your life circumstances. So as you get older, you tend to become less flexible because of, for example, family life. You might not be able to move all over the continents to get to in the beginning, fairly low-paid job. That flexibility disappears with age, generally speaking, and that tends to be the things that sets the limit. But unless, like I was saying, there are a flight school that has a age limit, which I know that there are for integrated courses in some flight schools, or that you're looking for a specific airline who has said that they don't take in low-hour pilots above a certain age. There's no theoretical limit. I've met a colleague that was a train driver up until he was 50, and then decided he wanted to become a pilot, did his training, became a pilot, and is now going for his command. That's, I think, 55.
Okay, great. One last quick question from someone here. If you're at school or college and you're starting to plan your training, would you suggest that someone went to consider college or university before entering into a flight program, or entering into a flight program as soon as possible?
For me?
Well, you can start off. There's swift answers for everyone. We've overrun this one. Sorry, I should have made that clear.
I mean, if we learned one thing from this, is that it's good to have a backup plan. So I would say that it has to do with how much time you have and how much money you have. If you can afford to have to get a university degree, then that's good. In some countries like the US, for example, you might need to have a university degree in order to be considered for employment. But it's certainly good to have something to fall back on if you fall into a drought like this.
Thank you very much. Andy?
No, I wouldn't suggest delaying, and the reason is our integrated program has a built-in degree, so you have the fallback with it at no extra cost. It's all part of it. So at the same time, 18 months, you do your training and you get a degree. So why would you want to go elsewhere? Do it in one go.
Eugene?
Yeah, I mean, it's personal choice. There's no requirement for it to start out with pilot training, and like Andy says, there's degree level qualifications you're getting in pilot training. Potential options for links with universities and the like.
I would say yes, absolutely. Go to university, hide in university for 2 or 3 years, get yourself a qualification, get yourself another source of income, as Petter says. And with respect to all the other panelists here, do be careful about the sorts of degrees that are offered with aviation programs. I'm not talking about leading edges, but many of them are really foundation degrees that have no application at all outside flying, and so they don't represent a second string to the bow.
Thank you very much. So we're going to wrap up the Q&A here in just 1 second. I just wanted to say there are clearly some opposing views here, and that's no surprise. Different people will have different views, and part of your task as you're planning your future training and aviation career is to really take all of the data, to question it, trust but verify, and then put together the solution that best fits you. There is no one answer that fits everybody. So take all the information, assess it, apply it to your own personal situation, and make your training plan that's appropriate to you. Thank you very much, and we'll see you for another Q&A later.